When it comes to emulating, there are some things you could do and some things you should avoid, not because they are rules, but because those are things that could actually improve or break your experience with emulation. Now, first things first, this video is intended for people who want to get into emulating. If you are experienced on this subject, please leave a comment if you think I missed anything, or if you think you have anything to add, or even disagree with anything I said. The more information, the better. This covers emulation on computers. Emulation on other devices is similar, but usually worse. Now, what can you emulate? Well, as of mid-2015, almost everything up to the 5th generation, which is up to the Nintendo 64 and PlayStation generation. No, you cannot emulate PlayStation 2 or the Dreamcast. At least not properly, not yet. The entire idea of emulating is to try and do something as close as possible to what the real thing would be. Now, people often discuss what is the most accurate way of playing this game or that game. Well, if you're going to be picky, the most accurate way of playing, let's say, Super Mario Bros. For the NES would be playing it with the original hardware. A real cartridge on a real NES on a TV you would find for sale in stores back in 1985, while having never played another Super Mario game before, so there would be no unfair comparisons. Alright, that's kinda harsh, right? Well, even without time travel, there are some things you can do to emulate that experience without breaking the game. Again, those are not rules, but advices on how to make the emulating experience more enjoyable. Most emulators have the option to use save states, or to speed or slow down time in game. Now, there are uses for those tools, like recording videos and such, but if you're trying to actually experience a game, you should avoid using those. But that is the beauty of emulation, they make things easier, you say. Of course they do, that's the idea. But unlike today, the developers actually wanted to make it worth your money. People complain today that games are expensive, but games were never cheap. For example, Super Mario 3 was $45. And if you have ever talked to someone who's old, you know how they say that back then you could buy a house with that money. With enough skill you can finish Super Mario Bros. In under 10 minutes. Imagine being a kid, saving your allowance for weeks, months, and spending it on a game and beating it in 10 minutes. You'd be pissed off and no one would blame you. So what did they do? The exact opposite of what they do today. When they realized the game was kind of easy, they would make it harder. So you would have to play the same states over and over until you got good at them. So using save states or any other functions to make your life easier will only break your experience. If you can't beat a game with the amount of lives given, it doesn't mean that the game needs to be adjusted. It means you need to get better at it. Just like me with Contra games, I absolutely suck at every single one of them. Now, let's say you're playing an RPG, or the game has a password system, or even infinite continues. Then it's up to you. As long as you save at the password screen, or continue screen, or the save screen on an RPG, you're not breaking the game, right? It's just a way of saving you from writing long passwords, but it wouldn't break the game. Another thing that has a potential to destroy families are the use of filters. Almost every emulator has the possibility of using them. Some are used to try and emulate how the game would look on a TV back then, with scan lines, distortion, and others are for the people who don't quite like pixels but for some reason like playing old games that were made with them. Like that kid who hates eggs but likes omelets. It happens. There are also ways to enhance the graphics on 3D games that will only add to the experience. Once again, this is entirely up to you. If you enjoy playing games that look like this, for example, then go on ahead and play them like that. If you're going to play it with no filters just because you want to be one of the cool kids, but it will constantly distract you from the experience of actually enjoying the game, then just don't. It's a matter of taste. Like I said before, to get the most accurate visuals for it, you would need all original hardware and time travel. So go with the way it pleases you the most. In the end, it doesn't really matter to me what you decide to do. Neither should it matter to anyone else, except for you. I'm not listing which emulator works best for each system because that depends on the game you're playing, where you're playing it, and even on the version of the emulator. The most popular ones are usually the ones with fewer problems, but not necessarily the best. And if you're serious about this, get a nice controller. No need to go for special retro controllers or any special emulation gear, which I'm not even sure exists but probably does. Just get a controller that has nice directional buttons that feel smooth and suit your tastes. With controllers, usually the price is equivalent to quality. But if you're not sure whether you'll keep playing on emulators or if it's just a phase you're going through, then at least get a cheap one. It beats playing on the keyboard for most of the games. Try doing this on the keyboard. Or this. I mean, I'm sure some people can do it, but I just can't. And the most important thing, have fun.